you have already read, I'm a lawyer by profession, and yes, I became First Lady. So basically, overnight, I became the mother of a nation. Wasn't expecting it. So sometimes, you know how you're supporting others and you forget how it's going to impact you because you are not putting yourself in the equation. So that's basically what happened. When we took, my husband took office in 2020, and there was a lot going on. We had a financial crisis, so we were in the process of cleaning that up and implementing an IMF program. And I don't know if you have any information on how IMF programs are implemented, but it is killing. So if that wasn't enough, we had also consecutive floodings. So in the midst of all that, you understand there's no attention paid to mental health or what we were going through and how the youth was experiencing it. And I'm just doing this from the perspective of Surinamas there, where the youth had, of course, in the midst of the pandemic, globally, how were they dealing with it, not being able to go to school, having to miss classes because it was not all seamlessly done, the virtual classes. So some kids had homework, some kids didn't, and just the whole entire period not knowing how is it gonna end, or when is it gonna end, and when are we gonna head back to being normal, you know, the normal, what we were accustomed to. So in the midst of everything, you try to be a spark of light and to have them focus on the positive, because there's a lot of negative. And you're not gonna feed the negative. What you need to do to make a difference, in my opinion, is what I try to do is then make that switch, just strip the focus towards something that is positive. And then we started with different projects. And I was happy when UNICEF came to meet me and we started talking, and they were on board. They were happy with what I suggested. And I was happy to have a partnership with them, but then I'm jumping ahead. And let's start about going back. How do you, as I said, when you're not prepared and you didn't calculate yourself into the equation and then realize, I have a new role. And it sounds really silly because you cannot imagine, how don't you calculate yourself? But it's something that we are conditioned to do, right? As women. Society conditions us, so you always put somebody else, their needs above yours, and you don't even realize you're doing it. You don't even realize you're doing it because you're so conditioned. It's so a second nature, and trying to break that way of thinking sometimes, or perhaps you symbolize something that is breaking with that tradition, can sometimes be threatening. Can you follow the train of thought? So I was trying to find my own voice and in this new role. And why I say this is the first ladies and the presidents were of a certain age, and they already had already had experience in politics, whereas I didn't. And I, because of my work, didn't participate in politics. In other situations where presidents have had the chance to be a part of the party and grow within the party, was not the case with my husband. He just, because of his track record, was asked to lead a party. An outsider asked to lead a party, but it's not actually done anywhere, if I think. Yes. So he was asked to lead a party, and then you're thinking, okay, that's going to be his thing, and I'm going to do my thing. But reality is, That's not possible. And the inexperience that came with this is that I didn't realize it was gonna be something that I would need to address, a new role. I thought it was gonna be easy. We're in the 21st century, women know their voices, women know where we're heading, we're strong, we're resilient. And then you realize it's not that way. You realize that the women are the one attacking you for not fitting in that mold that they know. The mold is you are you're not very vocal. You're not very vocal. They expected me to do the ceremonial things like cutting ribbons and going to orphanages. What I did it. But I always ask my team, how do I fit in this? What is my voice? What do I bring to the table? And do I lose my identity just because I'm married and he has a new job? Do I lose my identity? But what I saw is that the resistance were coming from women. And then I couldn't understand it. I couldn't place it. Weren't you proud that you have a first lady that represents progressiveness, and she's educated, and you have perhaps, I would wish to be, I don't know, but maybe you could see her as a role model to strive towards more. So it was a real slap in the face, this experience. And as I said, it was very turbulent, because you have to understand, you have to rethink your whole identity, I thought. Am I gonna fit in the box that they are saying, this is the box you need to fit in, this is what we want, or are you gonna be yourself? So
You don't like to be in the box here.
Definitely not in the box. So I tried to find my way, and I would have my husband tell me, do what the others are doing. And everybody's sending him, advisors sending him notes, like, have the first lady do this, she should find something she wants to champion. Gender violence is always the thing that women, that should be it, that should be the thing that she champions. And them telling you what you should be doing. Constantly, you can't believe it, constantly. What you wear, how you speak, whatever. Every single thing. And you said, you know what, I just decided at a point, either you take me or you leave me. Because, and it didn't matter where we were gonna end up. So it was not just to be your authentic self. Because then only would people connect to you. Then only would there be a connection. I cannot be fake, because if I'm gonna try to fit in your mold and in your box, I'm not myself. So I understood at a certain point for myself, this is what I'm gonna hold on to. I'm gonna be my authentic self.
We're all about being authentic here. There are students here who are in the concentration about authenticity. So we're with you.
Okay, great. So I found my people. I found my tribe. So, so as I said, they were accustomed to something else, and I had to just keep pushing through that. Even when professional, they stepped up to me, or they called me and they said, Mellisa, you know what, just stop. Just stop, it's too much. Because the social media attacks, it was politically fueled, of course. They were trying to find the weakest link, and I was the one they didn't know. So it was like, it's all in this playing field. Politics, being a woman, being educated, trying to do something that can make a change, perhaps, or just because you're different than what they're accustomed to. So you're trying to find your way through all these hurdles, and yeah, it's hard. It was hard. I had my breakdown. It was like, it was so politically fueled, and I couldn't understand that in an educated world where you know this is wrong, why do people act differently? Why do they still do that what you know is just not done? It's, you know what's right and wrong, but why do you do it? Why do you attack a woman? Just because she's educated, just because she doesn't speak the way you want her to speak. Isn't her right to exist the way she is, or the person in its whole to exist the way they are? So I didn't know at the time what, I wasn't versed in the sustainable development goals back then. I was just experiencing something. I was just like experiencing it, and I was trying to communicate it, but there was nobody to communicate it with, because the first lady that was before me was of another political party, the opposition, and I think I could go get some support from her there. And then the one before that was, she was already quite, well, her health wasn't at the best. So people said, you know, just go have a talk with her. But as I said, I was totally different, because she was a social worker. She was already known within the community. She really was known within the party because they started at the founding of the party. So she already had that network set out where I didn't. And yeah, how do you go about it? You're starting to think. What are you going to do? What is this that I'm experiencing? What is the baseline thinking of the women in Suriname? I was confronted with reality, because I had something in my thought, in my head, as I experienced it when I studied abroad. And then you realize when you come back that the baseline, what is experienced abroad. So the average civilian's education level is where it's higher, and then you return back home, and in the past 10 years, there has been a decline in the schooling. And then recently, we had the data, the studies done, the research, and then the data showed that a majority didn't even finish primary school. So then I realized there's here something, you have to do something to make a change. And you can go about it in various ways, but as there's so much resistance, are you gonna say leave it, or are you gonna try to do something? And then how are you gonna bring it about? And my thought was, you know, I need to push through something. I need to like give them a voice. And I realized that the older ones, or maybe the gap was too huge, you know, to bridge it. So it was like, you know what, let's try it with the younger ones. Let's try it with the youth, because they are more susceptible to what is out there. They're more, you know, they're in the digital world. They have so much information, you know, at the tip of their fingers, but do they know what to actually do with that information? How do they experience it, knowing that there's a different world? You know, the virtual world is different, and then back home, it's another story. You don't see on the television what is actually you're experiencing at home. It's always, you know, you're allowed to speak and you're allowed to voice your opinion, but that's not maybe the cultural background you have home. So, as I said, at that time, I didn't know, I wasn't versed in the sustainable development goals, and then I realized, you know, that's where I was heading. It was gender equality, and the more basic form of it is just to have them think not in a certain way, just to have them think about that. And we all know, and there's some facts, that women make up more than half of the world's population. And that's the same in countries. We're about half of the country. And even though we're the majority, you would think that strength is in the number, right? Isn't that something that's logical? Women are in the majority, and strength is in the number, and we're gonna support each other, and we're like, go sister, go for your dream, we're gonna strive, we're gonna be the leaders, we're gonna take those roles, we're gonna be the leaders, we're gonna make a change. But then when you have these women that are progressive and do want to go for those positions, they're not accepted. So what is that gap? I don't understand the gap. So you're trying to figure it out. What is this? And yeah, so the strength is then not in the numbers. Do you realize that? Isn't that sad? So not only do you have to deal with the men who don't give you a chance to take a leadership role. They try to downplay you. They try to, whatever way to take away that confidence. Or actually, I remember, just to give you an example, I was visiting in Guyana, and I met a young lawyer, and she said the first time she came back to Guyana after studying abroad, she was at the table at the meeting, and one of the men just asked her, one of her seniors asked her to go get coffee while she's there too. She's there as a professional, just as he is. And he asked her to get coffee. And I said, she was sharing that she couldn't even imagine, she didn't expect that, and she didn't know how to handle it, but it hit her, and it hit her heart. And I could understand it. So when you get educated abroad and you come back, and then sometimes you still have the gap that you experience, and it's sad that it happens that way. Because one thing that I ask the women and ask everybody, especially on Women's Day, is that we want our girls to get educated. And thank God, Suriname, there's no issue regarding that. Girls and boys, they have the same opportunities to get educated. What do they do with that education? Once they have that degree, what are they supposed to be doing? Staying at home? Baking? So I got a master's degree just to bake, or just to clean, or just to raise the kids? What did I get a master's degree for? You want to be a part of society. You want to, do your part. So, and as you're educated, aren't you supposed to be able to take leadership roles? But are we, and then I ask those women when I talk to them, are we ready to take those roles? We feel supported to take on those roles? Because I would say that it's your sister, it's your daughter. You would definitely give your daughter a chance, but I'm also your daughter. I'm also your sister. So don't I get a chance? Doesn't she get that chance? Doesn't she get that chance? Just to bring it home. You try to make it relatable. So what does it do to you when you hear this? Yeah?
I think just listening to you speak and listening to you, even the numbers, the percentages of women, there are more women than men, yet somehow that number doesn't matter because there's always this level of being seen as secondhand. And I think just even thinking of the lady in Guyana who probably has so much prestige in the work that she is doing, only to not have that be validated because the man who asked her to get coffee just saw her as a woman and not anything beyond that. And I think that's really difficult because I think about even myself where I've been in positions where people, despite going to the school and having the great things that I'm doing, people have only saw me as just whether it's for being a woman or ethnicity, do you work at this store? Are you a staff? Or I'm like, I'm in regular clothes. Like, what are you talking about? But I think it's just like, I feel like people, like, they don't realize how much this also just affects self-esteem and self-worth, and just like how much pressure it also puts on women to now want to not only exceed, but exceed to like 110%, because they can't just be at 100%. They have to exceed that to be seen as equal. So
It's the reality. Thank you. So it's the reality. And then it sounds, you wonder, should you start? No, definitely you should start. And definitely you should go ahead and pursue, because you're making a difference in your life and you're responsible for yourself. And by doing that, you're definitely going to have some effect, on those around you. Like here, you're having effect on each other, you're influencing each other, you're supporting each other. That's where you start. And that's how small you can start. And definitely one person can make a change. Is where you start, you get the ball rolling. So that's how I thought, and it sounds so cliche, but it's so true. It's your mindset. It's your mindset. Are you gonna, as I said, are you gonna be thinking, okay, this is what it is and I'm gonna accept it? And I'm just gonna change and fit in the box? No, we're not gonna do that. So what I'm saying is then you're gonna be part of the solution, right? You're gonna be part of the problem, but you're gonna be part of the solution. And realizing that it's a process. So you might not see the end result, but that doesn't matter. That doesn't matter, because it's not about that. It's starting the steps, and you hope to see the results and you hope to experience it. But that doesn't mean you should give up if you don't see it, because it is gonna make a difference. Even if it's in your life and in those around you, there's where it starts. So, yes. So, gender equality. Then I realized I was busy, I was actually doing SDG number 5, gender equality. Not, yes. I didn't know it at the time. All I knew was what I was experiencing. And I asked myself, more specifically, how to start awareness in Suriname. How to start awareness. Because I cannot start talking about issues if we're not even aware of it, and nobody pays attention to it, and women don't see it yet, what they're doing when they're bringing down somebody and they're attacking. And instead of seeing the opportunities and seeing a role model in somebody, or supporting somebody's endeavors in trying to make a difference. And I'm not talking about myself, but whoever is that, see the positive and don't be looking at, her clothing and her hair and all of that. That's just a side. That's a side of the point. So there was so much to think about, and you're thinking, okay, so how to start, and you're hoping to achieve something, and yeah, of course. So it comes to you, okay, you have to empower. Obviously, you have to empower. And then you say, okay, we have to empower women and girls. Was it only women and girls that make this world up? No, we have to think about the men and boys.
Okay.
Because they're part of the solution.
That's the message of you and women.
But it's so logical. I didn't know that. But it came about that if you want to make a change regarding gender equality, you also have to have them think about it. And that there is conditioning taking place in our society. When you are born and the babies are here, and one's a girl and one's a boy, do you treat them differently? But then as they grow up, they're conditioned, and without them knowing, they're taking on roles. And with that, they either excel, they pursue different things because it's I'm not the doctor here, but the conditioning, I think it just makes you feel it's easier, the most non-resistant path to follow. Like, what are you going to be studying, and what are you going to be studying, and what profession I'm going to head towards. So the conditioning is so subtle, but also very dominant. And it takes a parent to realize what they're doing, and it takes the community to realize what they're doing. But that is such a huge change because tradition is very important as well. So how are you going to make the change? So, as I said, there's so many questions around it, but you have to start somewhere, don't you? So, the first thing I did.
Being the vice chair of the organization, there are many students here who are very interested in the two, particularly of the pillars of what you are leading in CARICOM. Mental health and adolescent health. And that's
Yes.
what you are promoting in your region.
Yes. So just before I get there, is what I started to do within Suriname, and then I moved on I was asked to join the Spouses of the Caribbean Leaders Action Network. And I was asked, because of what I was doing in Suriname, as I said, how are you going to go about to make a difference? And then I started with a program. I started a few programs, and one that I started was a television program in partnership with UNICEF, because I don't have a budget. So you have to just look up the opportunities. So I partnered with UNICEF, and I said, how are we going to do this on the most basic level? We're going to talk about feelings. Boys should, first, women, voice what you're feeling, know what you're feeling. And boys, it's also good to know what you're feeling and to voice it. Yes? So there's where it starts. So we had a panel of young ones. We had a child psychologist. We have the UN representative. We're sitting, and we started at the most basic level, talking about feelings, because it is not the tradition in many countries, and not only, also European countries. I know France, I was talking to one of the CEOs, oil and gas company, I think Total Energies, and he said, it's not a part of our culture. It's not of our tradition. French don't talk about feelings. No. So I said, it's not only Suriname. So it's different cultures, it's different traditions. You don't talk about feelings. But we're going to talk about it now. And it had a slow start. But after 10 episodes, we saw the difference in the panelists. Because after 2-3 episodes, we change. We bring a fresh faces out. But they're from the schools. And the schools pay attention to the episodes. So it did have an effect after a while. And I was happy that we could see that they felt so at home. Even though the cameras were on, you could ask the team members, even though the cameras were on, they felt at home. They felt okay after, I think it was the sixth episode. You could just see that they weren't nervous anymore. And we had various topics, and we started with bullying, but it's more empowerment, and then talking about something. Because we can say, stop bullying, bullying is wrong, right? We can say that, but you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing. So we have to empower, you have to give you the tools, and that is what I was paying attention to, giving the tools to be able to say no, to set boundaries, and even if you don't, you're bullying me, sorry. But if you're bullying me, I should be able to call you out on it and say, that's my boundary, stop it. Don't like it, stop it. And if you don't like it, then we can be friends. If you don't want to stop, then maybe we can be friends. That's okay with me too, and that should be okay as well. So having them voice what they're feeling, and not to be ashamed or, the peer pressure and whatever. So it starts with empowerment, and then we go through different topics like,
We got the video.
Yeah, we got the topics like bullying, performance anxiety, how do we deal with shame? Yeah, so how do we deal with anger, peer pressure, and one of the ones that I am happy that we could do was self-image.
Big one.
Yeah, self-image. So there's a child psychologist, two, and an assistant. She's still pursuing her degree. So they're there. And then we have in our panel so even if it's someone with a disability, everybody should join in. It's in sign language. So we try to get the information out there. And we're happy with the results. And then coming back to gender equality, just trying to also empower young women who are who've gone through perhaps something in their life and they want to just put them in the spotlight, that how they got through it. Because sometimes I can tell you how you can do it, but you don't see yourself represented in me. And a peer is perhaps something you would see something that they could say it in the words or somehow say it and you can relate more than you can relate to me. So just to close that gap. So we have young ladies share their stories and their challenges and how they overcame it and how they still do it. So they share that and how they found themselves or remained their authentic selves, even though society or their community was trying to push them in another direction. So that was what we're doing at a university level. And this young lady, she wasn't born with a disability. She was heading to school one day and she got hit by a car. And then she became disabled. And she got bullied, really bullied. She moved from school to school to school. And what she's sharing here in the program is sharing her story. And you see that huge smile. That's her personality. She, if I'm correct, I don't see it here. She already had her bachelor's in education. Yes, she already had, at this point, she had just graduated her bachelor in education and she's pursuing her master's degree. So she didn't give up. And why she chose education is what she experienced as a young person. So from going through all that, and you could see the energy in her. So this is what we want to promote, that young women see that even the challenges, everybody goes through challenges. And not expecting, and we say don't expect alles van een leien dak te gaan, is that it's not going to be a road without bumps. It's not going to be a road without bumps, without challenges. The thing is, are you going to be okay with it when it comes? Are you going to be okay with it? Are you going to be okay, and can you head on, continue on? Because this is going to be life. This is life, and this is living. So, I'm just gonna go on to, we started these programs and we're doing a bunch more. And then I decided to join the SCLAN, the Spouses of Caribbean Leaders Action Network. And they have a few pillars. I'm not gonna go into it because I don't know how much time I have. But one of it is, of course, mental health. And that's the one I got in there. The Men and Boys project was done in Belize, a pilot project, and we had our meeting last Monday. So we're gonna share the project, what the outcome is, and then the best practices are gonna be shared with the rest of the Caribbean countries. We would love to share that with you. Then the next meeting would be which countries would want to continue with that project and how we're gonna finance it, because that's also an issue in the Caribbean. Most of the ladies don't have, first ladies don't have a budget. So when you wanna do a project, you need funding for it. So you have an idea, you have an initiative, you wanna champion something, but you need partners to actually bring it to life. And then, this is what we're going to be doing. So that the Caribbean Action Network it's in the name that you want to have more action. And some countries can take the lead. So depending on whatever the First Lady feels that that is something she can champion or could fit in her program that she wants to put out that year. So we try to also assist and support each other, because it starts in one country, but the whole region can make a difference and help each other.
About mental health.
Yes. So I didn't even know I was passionate about mental health, as we just started talking about feelings and then realized that we were busy with mental health. We were already tackling that, because the basis for seeking help, it's still a stigma in Suriname and most of the Caribbean. It's a stigma. And women don't seek help. Postpartum depression is not even addressed in Suriname. I don't know if the rest of the Caribbean, it's not even addressed. So women sit and they stay in that spot, and they're scared to reach out for help, and they don't even ask their spouses because they fear, of course, the stigma, and they fear to be pushed aside. So they try to mask it and keep on going, so they're functional. They stay, but the true self is still very much hurt. How to seek help. So as I said, we start with the young ones, help them to vocalize their feelings, and then you hope that they speak about it when they go home, and they speak with their moms, and they speak with their dads, and to sensitize them. So that's basically what I'm doing, sensitizing them, that they realize, and I explain to him, emotions are not a flat line. They don't go like this, because when you have this, when you're a flatliner, you're dead, you don't breathe. So you need this, and that's just being alive. So emotions go up and down and up and down. And the thing is that I'm also doing in a project, I'm going to head back, back and forth. What we're trying to do in schools, our school year starts in October, is to introduce mindfulness. So we've already been to schools. So we already went to schools, we had them.
You might actually have some help, because there are students in here who are totally doing mindfulness.
Beautifully. So we'll leave our contact. Please feel free to contact us. I'm introducing a 15-minute, 10 to 15-minute, breathing session. Because as our youth is experiencing life all through, these young ones, they're not even speaking, and they know how the phone works. They know how the phone works. They're experiencing the world through a screen. And emojis. They're expressing themselves by emojis. Emojis are not enough. A human being is far more complex than that. And you don't even know what the emoji stands for, so I don't know what half of them stand for. And they communicate in this way. It's to bring them back, to ground them. So basically to ground them. And the way I went about it is because of COVID. We were all traumatized. We were all traumatized. But in Suriname, we didn't see anything on television trying to help us that address that, how to go about it. So I thought, we don't have a promo, but we could share with whoever wants to, contact us regarding that, how we're going about it, is a session to teach them soothing mechanisms. Soothing, without them knowing, just soothing mechanisms. Because they're all the time on high, they're turned on at the utmost. The phone is always on, the sound, the gaming. And I remember one of the kids, he was having such a bad day because he died lagging. I was like, what the hell is that? It's a game. He was lagging. Yeah, it's horrible. You can understand you're dying when you're lagging? I'm like, okay, you're alive now, though. So that's, yeah, yes. Yes, so.
I know there already are students who are wanting to talk to you personally.
Yes, I heard some of the questions, so please shoot.
Thank you so much for everything you said. I think so much of, as you mentioned, you came in and there's so many things that were unexpected, especially because you encountered barriers from other women, even though you said that, a lot of people were looking for someone who was progressive, and you encountered you encountered a lot of societal stigma. You've obviously been a lawyer. You've had experience with conflict resolution. What are some lessons you've learned as First Lady that you didn't know beforehand that really surprised you in terms of just conflict resolution, diplomacy, and so on and so forth?
So one thing is, I didn't realize how sexist the table could be. I guess I was very naive as a lawyer back then, and I was actually trained to be a judge. I didn't realize how predominant this, and as I'm doing this, I'm realizing how I don't know, I'm not gonna say all men, but how those men in leadership roles and their egos, how they actually think when a woman is sitting at the table. I'm confronted with it every day since I've been First Lady, and I'm ashamed for them that they don't realize that they're a part of the problem. They're a part of the problem. Women are not just, I don't know if I'm allowed to say this, but they're not just an organ, what kind of organ? Yeah, they're not just that. So see the person and don't see something that's not that. Just know that you have an equal partner at the table. So that was something that it kind of scares you to death, or you try to find your way through it. And then you, as I said, try sensitizing them. So when you're at a table, and I remember I'm at meetings, because I did do 2 years, I was the director of the cabinet of the president. So I acted, pro deo, no money for it. So I had them at the table, the ministers, and I heard their, how they made jokes. The man made jokes when the woman is at the table, not specifically towards me, but other women. And I hear it, and you have to call it out. And I can call it out because, as I said, you have to deal with me. At that time, they had to deal with me. Just call it out. No, I don't appreciate that kind of language at the table. Just call them out on it. Yes, go ahead.
Hi, thanks for very genuine sharing. It's really inspiring of all the work you do. So my name is Faustine, and I actually come from the Spirituality, Mind, and Body program. And I'm actually taking a class called School with Spirit. So I'm happy to share more of mindfulness, meditation stuff, program starting with school. So my question is that given that I've watched an interview yesterday on you, and you share about a lot of justice and equality, and given your background in law. So I'm wondering, how do you see mental health issues, especially that with women and children? How do that build in the national legal system or mental health system in Suriname? Yeah, how do you view that?
So as I said, when we started, we didn't know it was mental health. And mental health is quite new, I should say, to Suriname, in the sense that when I promoted is that mental health is health, that for them, it's something new, because mental health was promoted by UNICEF for children, from war crimes and that. So it was more focused on, it had to be a real catastrophe or something for you to need help, for that mental health support came. But mental health is health. So before you're diagnosed, before you have a disorder, you need to also pay attention to the mental part. So we go to school and we do gymnastics, we have we say gym class. So you have that, it's in the curriculum. But whereas in the curriculum, in this case, if you want to bring it under the umbrella of mindfulness, where's that? Where is just teaching, as I said, these kids, they're gaming, they're constantly on, from a scale of 10, they're always at 10 almost. So it must be exhausting. How do you get them to, calm down and calm down so that they can study and not be focused on the phone, and to actually be able to turn the phone off? I think that's the hardest thing they have at this moment. how to turn the phone off, to know where your boundaries are, to know that for example, when they're crazy about TikTok and everybody's crazy about TikTok, I don't have a TikTok. Because before you know it, as I understand, you're there 2 to 3 hours. A young person is there 2 to 3 hours. Can you imagine that? So what are they escaping from? Because TikTok was designed to actually have you produce dopamine. So you're getting something out of it. But I'm not a doctor, so you guys, explain it to me and maybe another time. So you're trying, it's a basic form of escapism. And if you realize, hey, what am I doing through the 3 hours? And why am I doing this? What don't I want to address? What is it that I don't want to address? So to get you to bring the attention to yourself. So because everything is out and what comes to you and how you do it, but then, no, how am I gonna first pay attention to myself? So what I ask the girls very shortly and in the program is pay attention to yourself. You're worth it. Instead of, I remember going to one of the schools and my team was trying to calm me down because I was getting up. They were hearing it in my voice because when my voice changed, they know what's happening. I had this young one, I'm talking to this whole school, and she is just looking at the guy. And he's a tall guy. He's obviously way too old for that grade. And she was just looking and was staring at him. And I went all the way up to her trying to get her attention. And what I was explaining is, as a young person, I know maybe you're so focused at what others think about you and if they like you, and that seems to be your focus. Just pay attention to yourself. Don't wait for someone to pay attention to you for you to feel good about yourself. Aren't you worth your own time? Is TikTok worth your 3 hours? Are you worth your 3 hours? That's what I asked. Are you worth your 3 hours? That's the question I have them ask themselves. Are you worth your own time? And when you are worth your time, and then we will see. I'm sure there are many people out there, but just you know that you're worth your own time and give yourself the chance to know yourself and not trying to fit in somebody's expectation. Know yourself first and everything else will follow. That's what I try to say. And are there more questions? I don't know the time.
Thank you so much. You walk the talk because you are authentic. And you cannot take away from the fact that you're also beautiful. So, whatever. I mean, an educated woman who's a lawyer, who was studying to be a judge, who's doing her master's degree in international law. It's just phenomenal, really.
Just before I close off, as you are all the professionals, and maybe it's a project that's something that you're interested in. As I said, there's a stigma and to seek help, and there are also not that many professional psychologists in our country, but within the region, maybe there's more. So I don't know if you have the one picture. So I have this idea about connecting professionals with those who want to seek help. Sometimes it's harder to speak to somebody from your own region or your own country because the society is so small and you're not brave enough, or you don't feel you can share. You're just so scared. But it's easier to share with a stranger. But somebody that's professional, just make sure that we can make sure that we connect them, and they could either do this anonymously, to speak to a professional. And I was thinking about the virtual, the digitalization and everything to connect each other, and perhaps to do this via an app. And the whole thing is that I want to launch it within the Caribbean, but we're looking and we're hoping, and I spoke to UNICEF about it, and we're trying. So if anybody's interested in doing this project and can help us make a difference or connect, it doesn't even have to be the Caribbean. It could be broader than that. But if you're interested, so they have a picture of it. But it's just to connect. Every young one has a phone, and if you have the app, you could connect with a professional. And it should be, there's no with a phone. You can just send out your question, and you could choose to be seen or just remain anonymous if you just have a question. And maybe we don't start directly with psychologists, have a peer, but I think there's where we're experiencing the most stigma is looking for help, especially the women. As I said, they've been living with the functional depression for their whole lives, and I've seen it, and that's why it speaks to me. I've seen it. I don't need to read about it. You see it. So maybe it will be easier for them to seek help, because I just want to have one example. So Suriname has been for the past 15 years in the top 5 of countries globally regarding suicide. So we've never gone lower than 4 or 5. And we're such a small population of 600K people. And we're in the top 5 of the world regarding depression. So that's the reason I'm trying to think about to giving them an opportunity to find help if they have. And I think that this is something that they have no reason to not try it. There would be a moment, this will be like they don't need to go out of their home, they don't need to make an appointment and have somebody know about it or have the husband know about it. They just do it in the home while they're anywhere. So this is just to close that gap and have them be able to find professional help. So it's something that we can do together. If it's a project you're interested in and we can help flesh it out, please make contact with us. So thank you.